80% of B2B companies who've used a marketing agency have had a bad experience. And I'm going to talk about why. Now, on the inverse of that, 20% of them have had a good experience using a marketing agency, but that relationship still comes to an end. Why is that? So, I'm going to go over both of these at the moment to show you why this happens. So, first of all, in regards to the 80% of people who've had a bad experience with marketing agencies, the reason this doesn't work as well for most people is for three core reasons, and I'll go through them one by one. Number one is product. That agency, they will never ever understand your product as well as you do. So they will constantly get things wrong, let's say, when they're doing up marketing messaging, when they're putting together your positioning, when they're trying to help you with different things. There'll be a lot of back and forth for this. Now, look, a lot of the points I'm going to make, I'm going to not so much defend the marketing agencies because, look, some of them just absolutely do not have the skill set to help you. But also, I can see it from both sides. And that's what I'm trying to put together in this video here is I'm trying to see it from both sides. Now, in regards to the product side of things, as I said, they'll never ever understand your product as well as you do internally. And that could even be whether you are on the marketing team internally in your own B2B organization or you're part of HR or whatever it is, okay? You're part of finance, it doesn't matter. You always know what the product is internally a lot more than anybody else ever will in the world, okay? This is one of the difficulties that a lot of people have in regards to that. So, because of that, the messaging that a lot of marketing companies can put out on your behalf, if you're working with a marketing company for your B2B organization, as I said, they'll have a fair idea of what your product is about, but they won't be able to know 100%. So there'll be a lot of iterations, there'll be a lot of back and forth saying, well, actually, this is what it does, or this is how we do that, or we're different because of the competitor because of X, Y, and Z. And a lot of companies, they just won't take the time to do that back and forth. They just kind of assume most marketing companies will know that or should know that. However, one of the reasons that they do fail is because there's a lack of kind of communication back and forth from both sides here. So this isn't just from the marketing agency side of things. This is from your own side of things as well. If you're again having those kind of faults, there should be immediate, clear signals from the start of this relationship when you're working with a marketing agency that they know who you are, who you help, who your target audience is, who your ICP is, what differentiates you from the competition in the marketplace, what makes you stand out, what's your USP, pretty much everything. The problem that can occur here is most marketing agencies, or sorry, most B2B organizations, when they do start working with a marketing agency, they have none of this ready. They've none of it prepared. Again, they just assume that this is magically going to happen. Now, on the inverse of that, this is, in my opinion, the fault of the marketing agency because they should be the ones who do have some sort of an onboarding where they go through literally everything with you to figure out who are you going after. Oh, I can see on your website that you have a page targeting this industry, whatever it may be. When we used to run a marketing agency specifically for B2B SEO, we would have an onboarding call specifically running through everything that we could see about that particular company online, about who we believe based on the perception of their website, who they're trying to target. And a lot of times people will tell us, well, actually, this is what we're going for. And yeah, even though that's on our website, that's not actually who we target anymore because of X, Y, and Z. And unless you have those onboarding conversations, which a lot of marketing agencies will not do, then it's just going to absolutely crumble from the start. It's a case of fail to prepare and prepare to fail, essentially. So again, the product side of things, nobody will ever understand the product that you have as much as you do internally. And unless you really spend a lot of time conveying that to a marketing agency, they won't be able to help you either. Okay. Now, even if you do throw that all together for them, or they do have a very good onboarding call where they try and learn as much as they possibly can about who you're trying to target, what the results you want from this campaign will be, all that sort of stuff, which again, the vast majority of marketing agencies just absolutely will not do. So again, I will put this on the fault for the vast majority of the marketing agency. But the next side of that is even if you have all this done, which again, most people absolutely will not, whether it's from your side or from the marketing agency side, most people will not have this done. But the next side of it is the offer side of things. Okay. Now, I don't mean putting together a sale for an offer. I don't mean putting together some sort of discount to try and drive people in, like what we see in the likes of the e-commerce world. Offer is a completely different side of things in the B2B world, okay? So we don't have to discount things, we don't have to put things on sale, but the offer is basically just the packaging, okay? How are we packaging together what you do to get the attention of somebody who would potentially be a client of yours at some point in the future, okay? Basically, someone who fits that ICP audience. They will actually be able to pay for whatever it is that you are doing. They fit in that they have the right amount of people on their team, whatever it is. Okay, there's going to be loads of different variables for all different types of products of people who are watching this in different B2B organizations. Okay, but the point I'm trying to make here with the offer side of things is even if you have the product side of things fully all aligned with your marketing agency, which you'd be very lucky if you did, then next side of this is the offer. Okay, most, and I mean 90, I would go as above as 97% of B2B organizations that I've ever seen in the past or we've ever worked with in the past, they have no idea what their offer is. Okay, they just assume that they sell HR software. Okay, that's not your offer. That's kind of the vehicle that gets somebody to the end goal. Okay, but that's not essentially the offer. That doesn't tell people essentially what you fix. It doesn't reach on a pain point. It doesn't actually get people interested. Okay, people can see HR software and they can go, oh yeah, maybe we need HR software, maybe we don't. Okay, yeah. The offer is essentially why someone should actually give you their time and attention, so they could either look at your website, open your email, reply to your email, comment on your LinkedIn posts, whatever it is, okay? Whatever way that that particular marketing agency is helping you to grab the attention of your potential clients at some point in the future, that is essentially what the offer is, okay? So again, it's not just a case of, HR software. Now, look, there's the odd times where that might be the case where if you're doing inbound through search, like SEO or even SEM, yes, that can come up there. But again, you have to understand and know when is the right time to use this, when is not the right time to use this. And again, most marketing agencies actually do not know this. They do not kind of understand this either from an offer packaging essentially point of view here as well. Okay. Now, again, this is going to where really it falls down for the vast majority of B2B people who are working with an SEO, or not an SEO agency, sorry, a marketing agency, whether they are B2B SEO, whether they are outbound, whether they are ads, whatever it might be. It doesn't actually matter. But it's the offer side of things where a lot of this falls down. Because again, even if you have this product side of things completely done, it's all up to scratch, you're all aligned, it's up to either you or the marketing agency, and technically it should be the marketing agency. That's what you're hiring them for, to put together this. But then you have to align with this as well. Okay, so you need to essentially be putting together the offer where it doesn't come across as salesy, sleazy. It's not cheesy, especially in the B2B world, unless that's the campaign you're running to try and have a little bit of a pattern interrupt. Again, that's something that we can talk about in a future video. But again, the offer side of things is really where a lot of this falls down. And most marketing agencies just do not know how to put together offers for the audience of the people that we're trying to help. Again, whoever it is that is your potential ICP. There's so many things that need to happen before any campaigns ever even go live. And it's that time that is one of the biggest issues here, because again, a lot of people don't want to go through this because it's very time consuming for this kind of onboarding alignment call. A lot of people really don't want to go through this because there's going to be a lot of back and forth between excuse me, the marketing agency and yourself to say, we've put together this offer, what would you like to change? And if you go back and say, we want to change this, they can go back and say, well, the reason we put that there was X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of back and forth. Again, this is why a lot of it doesn't happen as well, okay? Now, again, this can also happen because of the expectations that were set from the marketing agency. Again, their offer would be, we'll help you get whatever it is, 50 leads in a month with our magical ad system or whatever it might be, okay? But that first month could just be a case of going back and forth with trying to align, okay? And the problem is in this instant gratification world is that you, as the B2B organization, you want those results overnight, okay? More than likely, you're in a bit of pain not having the leads that you want, and you're probably on a bit of a time crunch here as well to hit those targets, which is again why you work with these people. And then again, even if you take the right time to prepare, that's really going to be realistically a month before you actually have any campaigns live, before you have any leads essentially coming and people putting their hands up and saying, yes, I'm interested. And again, that's where a lot of B2B organizations can get upset saying, well, we wanted it now, but we didn't get it now. Again, that's not how it works. But if that is the messaging that the agency has put across, that can be where this falls across as well. Okay. Now I know this, I'm trying to see this from both sides here, just so you have an understanding, because it's really important that if you are working with somebody, that you do have an understanding from where they're coming from, even if you disagree completely, but just so you have an understanding to try and align, to try and have some sort of not even compromise, but just an understanding. Now, again, if you set the expectation from the start, everyone should be happy enough. But again, in these cases, that typically doesn't happen, which is again why I'm making this video as well. Okay, so we've gone through the product side of things, gone through the offer side of things, and the last reason, and this is again a very, very big reason why 80% of marketing agencies fail for their B2B clients is because of, well, this is kind of a two-parter. It is strategy and it is skills. Okay. So in regards to strategy and skills, a lot of agencies just do not have these, okay? I would say, unfortunately, that in the world that we're in at the moment, there's a lot of, I would say, push at the moment from online influencers. I don't particularly like that word, but of, you know, teaching younger people how to put together marketing agencies, and oh, it's easy, all you have to do is do this and just click this button and AI will do everything. And that's not realistically how it works. But that's why a lot of people have been burned by marketing agencies. Okay, there's a lot of people who just don't have the strategies put together correctly. They don't have the skills. They don't know how to use these platforms. They don't stay up to date with the changes that are constantly happening on all these platforms, whether it's outbound, inbound ads, doesn't matter. Okay, you really need to be in the trenches every single day in whatever your skill set really is to actually get positive results from these particular campaigns as well. Okay. And now, unfortunately, I just don't see that 80% of agencies that I see out there anyway just absolutely don't have the strategy skills. Now, however, don't get me wrong, there is, I would say, about 20% of marketing agencies out there who do work with B2B who are very, very good at what they do. But again, that unfortunately is a small majority. There's a lot of people who are very, very skilled, very talented, and very good at putting together strategies, very good at all of this sort of stuff. And again, they take the time to really understand what the expected results are from their client, in this case, you being the B2B organization. There is a 20% of people who, or 20% of agencies, should I say, that do actually do that. However, what's interesting is that even when there is people who do have all of these put together and they're very good at what they do and they get you more leads and all this sort of stuff as well, okay, at some point, even if you've found one of the golden nuggets of the B2B marketing agencies that tend to be good, this relationship always ends at some point, okay? So why would it end if they're giving you what you wanted, which was more leads, more recurring revenue, more whatever it is that you actually wanted in the first place, okay? So there's a couple of reasons for this, okay? Number one is going to be time. Now, what I mean by that is, again, like I mentioned a few moments ago, we live in this instant gratification world. People want everything straight away and they want results immediately, okay? This company could be absolutely amazing at what they do. They could have very, very skilled team members. They could be using their own internal frameworks, which nobody else has, which is why they're getting fantastic, incredible results. But the problem is, again, most people want it now. And that is not how things work in the B2B world, okay? Whether it's sales cycles, whether it's the amount of touch points that typically somebody needs before they actually do go ahead and book a demo with you or book a sales call with you or whatever way your organization is put together in regards to your pipeline. Most people do not want to give this time. Again, the reason that most people are going to reach out to a marketing agency or use a marketing agency is because they're in some sort of pain. That pain being we're currently in a decline of leads. We're not doing as well as we did last month, last quarter, this time last year, whatever way that you look at those particular metrics internally. So typically that's when you go, okay, maybe we need a bit of help. And you just have this assumption that that's going to come overnight to you, which is again not how it works in reality. Okay, now, like I mentioned in a previous video, and you actually, if you go back and look at it, was either the last video or the video I did before that, we had a graph on the whiteboard. Essentially, we saw as that graph went up and it went down, and up and went down, and up and went down, but overall it went up. Okay, that is the vast majority of companies. If you look at pretty much any company, any successful company in the history of the world, basically, they all have these little declines every now and then. There's no company ever that just went straight up over time. And more importantly, there's no company that went from 0 to 100 overnight. But that is unfortunately the world that we live in. That's what most people want these days. You have to give this time, okay? Now, I've also seen in the past where a lot of B2B companies have been very, very successful working together with their marketing agency who have all of this put together correctly for them. And they have given it time, and the results are absolutely fantastic. And those relationships do stay for a very long time, okay? There's a very little churn in that case for that agency there. But the relationship at some point still ends. Now, again, that's typically because at some stage there is a decline and then this marketing agency gets the blame, which is not the marketing agency's fault. Now, even if it's a decline for, let's say it's not, leads aren't coming in or whatever it may be, or you've put out a new product that's not doing as well as you want, I mean, you've invested a lot of money into that, so revenue is actually down, or what's in the bank is actually down. And typically, then that puts a lot of finance people to say, okay, we need to put the brakes on things in the organization. And most likely, the first thing they're going to cut is marketing, which, if you actually think about it logically, is a bit silly because that's going to bring more people in, but the revenue back up. But anytime anything goes bad in any organization, typically the first thing to get cut is marketing. Okay, which again, if you think about it realistically, it doesn't make sense. But that's why, even for the very, very talented, very good marketing agencies in B2B do get very good results for their clients. At some stage, that relationship ends because nothing to do with the marketing agency, but internally something has happened. The graph has gone down rather than up, and typically these are the first people to get cut, which again, if you think about it realistically, doesn't actually make a lot of sense. Okay. So the next stage then in why this relationship can still end, even if they've done all of this right here, is basically realistic expectations. So what I mean by realistic expectations, somewhat similar to what I mentioned there a few moments ago, where a lot of people assume that if you sign up to, I don't know, get some help from a marketing agency, you just assume they have a silver bullet, okay? Again, because you want to believe that someone out there has the exact silver bullet answer, so you can go from 0 to 100 overnight. Okay, first of all, nobody wants to just wait and go over time to get the results. Okay, and again, there will be dips over time, but the graph goes up and down, but overall it goes up. Okay, which most people can never zoom out to see that bigger picture. Most people are so stuck in the present moment that they can't see the woods for the trees, and again, they just get caught in this panic and this spiral, and they're in this absolute dip that they need to get out of. And again, they think, well, let's just cut this. Okay, that's a cost. It's a cost we could probably do without. Let's get rid of. Okay, which again doesn't really make much sense. But in regards to realistic expectations, as I said, most people, even if they go through all this and the expectations were laid out from the start to say that, yeah, 100% we can help you get more leads. Yes, we've helped people like you before. Here's the results we've got. Everything's fantastic, blah, blah, blah. And you've gone through all this, and it takes those first 30 days to really understand this. And for these guys to start putting together their strategies and systems and whatever it might be that needs to go together specifically so that you can get the results that you want. Again, it could be a case of that from day 30 to 60, you have these expectations of, oh, well, I thought we'd get a million leads overnight once we finished all this. And I thought you had all this done. And I thought this foundation stuff was done. And you've put together the strategies and all the platforms that are set up for us. And the campaign's been live 24 hours. We've only got one lead. I thought we'd have at least 100 leads in 24 hours. Again, realistic expectations typically kills people who are very, very good at what they do, and they can help you. Okay. Again, there's a lot of patience, especially in the B2B world. There's going to be more patience needed than any other um not platform, any other kind of business. Okay. So if you're a local business and you do some either advertising or inbound or outbound, whatever it might be, you can have somebody come into you tomorrow. If you're a doctor, or not a doctor, but a dentist, chiropractor, a cafe, a restaurant, okay, these are all local businesses, okay, that can have customers and essentially new revenue cross hands immediately straight away, okay? If you're in the e-commerce world and there's a particular price point where some people will just have this impulse buy online, anything below kind of 50 tends to be the norm for the vast majority of people out there. Some people are saying it kind of goes up to 70, 80 now, but I would still imagine that for a vast majority of people, it's still anything below 50. So again, from e-commerce perspective, you can run ads and you can have revenue come into you within 24 hours. Okay. So not only can you have new leads if you're a local business, and new leads essentially if you're an e-commerce business, or visitors to your site, people who are aware of you or whatever it may be, wherever way you're tracking it. But in the B2B world, you're not going to have revenue cross hand overnight. It's very, very unlikely because it's going to be a much bigger ticket item. So again, there's going to be different people that's going to be involved. There's going to be multiple touch points that are going to need to be had. There's going to be probably several meetings that are going to need to be had. Again, depending on how big this particular deal is going to be, this is not going to be overnight. Okay, and that's again where first of all time comes into it, but again these realistic expectations that for you to get realistically an ROI from this, it's not going to be overnight. Again, if you're a local business, yes, of course you can get an ROI overnight from implementing some form of marketing. Even if you're in e-commerce, yes, you can actually get ROI overnight by implementing some sort of advertising or some sort of campaign marketing. Yes, you can get results overnight, and by results I mean revenue. But in the B2B world, that's not how it happens. And you should know that, okay? This is the world you live in. This is the world that you experience every single day. But for whatever reason, we have this expectation that even in B2B, if we work with a marketing agency, that they'll have a silver bullet and they'll fix all of our problems overnight. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And again, that's where people who don't have realistic expectations going into this, knowing that it's going to take quite a bit longer than it would if you were local or e-commerce, they get disappointed, and this is where things kind of fall apart and this relationship tends to end. Okay, The only reason someone is ever really upset with anything is because expectations weren't met. Okay, if you think of any particular example in the entire world, if you go to a restaurant, okay, that you have fantastic reviews about, your expectations are up here, but then you try it and it was just okay. So expectations were met. You tell people, yeah, it was all right, but it wasn't great. That's because you kind of had this preconceived notion that everything was going to be amazing. Okay. Since if you go to test drive a new car, okay, you read about it online, you've seen the reviews on YouTube, whatever it might be, and you test it, and you're like, yeah, it wasn't actually that amazing. These people online, these reviews, they made it seem fantastic. It was to me, it was just a car, and no big deal. Again, expectations weren't met. Whereas if you probably went in to test drive that car and you've never heard of it before, which I understand you wouldn't probably test drive a car if you've never heard of it, but let's just hypothetically assume in this example, you get behind the seat of that new car. If you didn't have these essentially preconditioned thoughts from other people and from everything else you've read online or reviews you've seen on YouTube, whatever it might be, you'd probably have had a good experience with it. Okay. So again, it's just a case that expectations weren't met. And that's the exact same here. And again, if expectations aren't met, that's where people get upset with anything in life. Okay. This isn't just B2B. So again, you have to have realistic expectations for these people to realistically do their job correctly for you and for you to realistically get the returns that you want to get as well. Okay. Now, look, I'm not kind of trying to defend for marketing agencies here because the vast majority of them, again, 80% are atrocious, I believe. There is those 20% that are very good, but it's very, very difficult to find these people. So again, the last thing, and then in regards to why this relationship ends, even if you're working with a company who are very good at what they do, is what I call the dreaded dip of despair. Okay. Now, I've kind of already touched on this as well, but the dreaded dip of despair, as I call it, is again when you start off down here, things are going okay, and then you go up, and then oh, there's a bit of a dip. Okay, when that dip happens, like I said, people start to panic. People are in spiral mode. They can't zoom out and see the bigger picture of look, how well actually how would this look over 12 months. They just see things were okay, now they're bad. We're in a dip. We didn't get as many leads as we did last month or last quarter, whatever it may be. So let's just take the assumption that this is ruined, this is destroyed. We need to stop the presses. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's cut all ties with these people. Whatever they were doing clearly doesn't work anymore, which is actually not true whatsoever. There could be loads of reasons for this. Okay, now one of the biggest reasons that I see a lot is that in August, a lot of people in the B2B world tend to go on holiday. So it doesn't matter if this company is doing outbound, inbound ads, it doesn't matter what they're doing for you. If the vast majority of people aren't contactable and they can't see your ads, they're not looking for you online, they can't find your website, they're not looking at their emails, so it doesn't matter if it's outbound, they don't see you on LinkedIn posts, it doesn't matter, okay? Because the vast majority of them are away. So of course there's going to be a dip in new leads that come in from that particular campaign as well, okay? So you have to realistically understand and have the right expectations that over time this will get better and there will be a dip every now and then. You have to go through those dips, okay? That's where the vast majority of people are going to get the best results from, is fighting through those dips. You have to understand that it's not going to be amazing every single day. That's just not how it works. That's not reality. Not even in B2B. That's not any business. That's not life in general, okay? And I'm not trying to be a bit of a downer here saying that sort of stuff. But the reason that I say this is because let's be realistic about it. And let's actually try and see what we can get in regards to best results over time, okay? Because that's exactly how this works, okay? So look, I'm not trying to defend marketing agencies because, as I said, the vast majority of them are really bad, especially in the B2B world. A lot of agencies are essentially out there to help local businesses like chiropractors and dentists, or there's e-commerce agencies that help people get more sales for physical products online. It's very rare, very, very rare, first of all, that you can find a B2B agency, people who are specialized in B2B and understand the complexities and the nuances and the sales cycles and multiple touch points and all that sort of stuff. But it's even harder. Trust me, it's much harder to find someone who's actually good at all that. And then good at all this as well, especially in the B2B world. Okay. So again, not trying to defend agencies because the vast majority are very bad for B2B. But there's the small little nuggets that are actually pretty good for B2B. But as I said, doesn't matter whether you're doing this or whether you're doing this, the relationship tends to die at some point. The only way out of that is if you take full control over this. Okay. Now, if you want to learn how you can take full control over all that without the headaches, without ever having to speak to an agency again, then you can check out the first link in the description. But look, hopefully you got some value from that. If there's anything that you want a particular video from in the future, just let me know in the comments below and I can make that for you at some point. But hopefully you got some value from that and we'll see you in the next video.